So I heard something from Andrew Huberman about when you tell people your goals. And it's funny because I think about a month ago, I made a video about telling people your business plans versus not telling them, and which one I think is better, because I've done both. And I think there are benefits to both, and I've noticed benefits from both, but ultimately a lot of the time I settle on not telling anybody until you get to a certain point. And my argument, which I'm not sure if I said it in the video, but my argument is always that you get the dopamine from telling somebody, and then it's so nice that you don't feel like you actually need to achieve the goal anymore because you already got that fulfilling feeling from it. And that is something that he was mentioning in this video, where if you talk to people, and obviously you're going to tend to tell your loved ones, your friends, your family about your goals, and they're going to be, provided they aren't pieces of shit, they're probably going to support you and tell you like, yeah, that's a great idea, that's a great, whatever. And they're going to be proud of you for trying to pursue that thing and encourage you. But the problem with that is that you get the dopamine, like I said, and then you're less motivated to actually go do the thing, because actually doing the thing is hard, and it doesn't give you any dopamine until after, or whatever. Dopamine is like the anticipation of reward, not actually the reward. So you know what I mean, like the good feelings you get once you achieve a goal. But if you tell people before you do it, then you already get that feeling, so then you don't want to go through the hard thing because you kind of already got the reward for it. And I was glad that that was validated, because that was always my theory behind it. And it was cool to hear him do it, because he's much smarter than me and probably actually researched it. But everything I say is just from my experience and my opinion, because I noticed a lot of people did that. And so I started trying to figure out why everyone would tell people and then never do it. And that made a lot of sense, because I've done it myself. But the whole point of all of that is that, I thought it was also interesting actually that he said, if you tell somebody that gives you a negative feedback, if somebody says something like, you're not going to do that, you're not actually going to follow through, you're not going to do it this time, it's actually better for you. Maybe not mentally, but in terms of achieving that goal and being more likely to achieve it, it does increase the likelihood that you actually go do it, because now you want to prove someone wrong, which I think is funny, because I've been noticing a lot of people recently talking about the, not putting as much pressure on having bad feelings or motivations that maybe would be considered unhealthy to achieve a goal. Like for me, it's always feeling like I'm not the smartest, or that I'm inadequate, or whatever. And that's kind of, I want to prove people wrong. And granted, I'll say that, and everyone's thinking like, well, that guy's messed up. That's not a good reason. But it's like, why does it matter? I think we all have something in that way. We all have some motivation that's probably not the healthiest, overall. A lot of people, you want to prove to your friends or your parents or whatever that they were wrong, or this random person that said you'll never make it, and you want to prove them wrong. And yes, it may not be the best, because then once you achieve it, you'll realize they never even cared, or probably didn't even remember saying that, or things like that. But for me, I just want to hit the goals. I don't really care what I'm using as fuel. And it's like I think Hormozi says the use what you got thing, where it's like, whatever you have, just use it. If you have fuel that's out of anger or sadness or fear or whatever, use that as your fuel to just get you going. And then you can figure out the mission and the purpose and everything later. And I do agree with that, because trying to get rid of those things beforehand is a lot more difficult than just taking action. And a lot of those things tend to resolve themselves in my experience, because if I'm ever sad or upset, and it's usually because I'm not taking the actions that I need to be taking to move myself forward. So nothing makes me feel better quicker than just doing the things that I needed to be doing to begin with, right? And I see that a lot with, if somebody's depressed, they're probably not doing anything. They're probably not going outside or working out or whatever. And I'm not saying it's easy to go do those things. Absolutely not. Of course, that's the whole point of why it's difficult, because you're caught in that loop. But you notice why, and it's easy to get stuck, because when you're feeling depressed and you don't want to do anything, but doing things is what will get you out of it most of the time. Yes, nuance, of course. Obviously, I forget, internet doesn't remember that there's nuance to the world. There's nuance there, but most of the time, that's my argument from my own experience. So for me, if I'm upset, it's always the best thing to do is to take action, move myself forward, do all the things that I know I shouldn't be doing. And the mindset that I've spoken about on here before is, I already feel like shit, so I might as well do all the stuff I didn't want to do anyway and just make myself feel worse. And through doing that, I always feel better. Whereas if I feel like shit and I try to do all these things to make myself feel better, like scroll and distract myself or whatever, get drunk, it doesn't ever help. It always makes it worse. So it's like, why not just do the things that you need to do anyway? And now I actually, if I'm upset, it's really easy. It's my first thing, because I've been reinforced. I know if I do those difficult things, I will feel better. So I always do the difficult things now, because it's just easy to use it as fuel and be like, okay, I feel, really upset. I'm not making enough money and I'm scared and I'm whatever. So let's use that as fuel. Let's go make some money. And that always helps me, at least. And yes, I went off on a tangent there, sorry, but ultimately it comes down to knowing what you're doing these things for. Because if you're doing it for the approval of others, once again, you can use the fuel for whatever you want. If you are okay with the fact that you're trying to start a business and make a lot of money to impress other people, probably not the best choice, but do whatever you want. But just understand that that's what you're doing and be okay with it. And but if you're telling someone beforehand, it's not gonna help as much as if you can find a way to dissect why you want to do it. And if it's a reason for you, then you won't feel as much of a need to tell other people about it, because you won't care what they say. And for me, a lot of the reason I don't like to tell people is because everyone likes to weigh in, and I already decided what I want to do. I already know what I'm gonna do, what I want to do. So if someone tries to talk me out of it or change kind of my direction or my approach or my offer or whatever, I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I'd rather risk it with my idea and fail. So I just prefer not to really mention it until it's already going, and then it's really too late for anyone to try to push back. But like I said, it can be useful if you feel like someone kind of doubts you or your idea or whatever. But I don't know, just an interesting way to kind of expand that conversation that, that I heard Huberman say that. And I also thought it was interesting that he said it really can work if you have someone who doubts you. So he's like, you can bring it up to someone who, will say something bad, but probably not the healthiest thing to do, but it will get you to where you want to go. And I've found that as an interesting trend recently of like, I always had these things where I was like, that's not good motivation, like trying to prove everyone wrong. I should probably figure out something else. But if that's what I want to do, if I'm okay with it, then why not, But I think over time, the longer that I have done this, actually I know the longer that I've done this, the more I've been able to figure out, why am I doing this for me? Am I doing this for other people? No? Okay, good. Then what is my plan? And for me, I truly want to help people, and I also want to have a life that I want, where I can control my time and what I do. And of course, I would like to live in a nice place and just be able to chill. And I love the place I live now, but I could never afford to buy this place. But I would love to just buy a place like this and, be able to work from home or whatever. And just kind of live on my own terms and then help people that need it. And, that's kind of been my plan. But I tried to set it up in terms of what do I actually want instead of should I prove someone wrong? Because every time I've gotten to a point where I feel like I finally did it, I finally proved everyone wrong, I kind of look around and I'm like, oh, no one even noticed or cared or even remembered or just any of that. So at the end of the day, you know, if you need to go through that to realize that nobody really cares, do it. But at the end of the day, 10 out of 10 times, it's never gonna feel as sweet as you think than if you're just doing it for yourself. So it's super cheesy, and I kind of, sometimes I hate that mindset, but it really is. It's like, you gotta just do it for you. But I'm not against, if you wanna do it to prove everyone wrong, do it. I'm just telling you, it's not gonna hit like you think it will. But anyway, just keep that in mind, keep an eye out for it, and let's get to work.